Let's um let's take a look at this video. Let's do a deeper dive on how close Jody Hildebrandt was moving her way to being like a serial killer, right? Um, because the kind of items that were found, and I have already covered this, but the type of items that were found and the condition these children were in, the fact that they were getting tied down, that's like the direction she's moving, is like serial killer, right? Now, obviously, this is speculation and it's allegedly.
Because when you hit them, usually have their attention. Most kids will be like, and then they'll be like, what do you want? What do you want? I'll do whatever you want. Just don't hit me again.
Now, there are a generation of lots of generations of parents who do believe in spanking. But usually, you're only going to have spanking on the bottom, maybe a slap across the cheek if they back talk you. And it's usually when they're in single digits. They're young, you know. Once they start getting into junior high ages and stuff, it doesn't really... Spanking doesn't work. The only reason you're using spanking in the first place is because they're still, learning English or, learning a language. They haven't, you have a communication barrier with your child. And so in order to let them know that they've done something wrong, you have to give them body language and also maybe a pat on the butt, right? But a lot of newer parents believe that even that goes too far, which is fine. I think it's fine if you can come up with alternate parenting strategies where maybe you're relying more on timeouts and stuff like that. But I think at the toddler age, I think it would be difficult to, because you know what, there could be complaints against my parents used to lock me and my brother in our rooms, and I don't know that that's necessarily a safe way to discipline a child either, that you're now locked in a room. I don't know. But sometimes parents lash out just because they're irritated, and it's not necessarily that you've done anything seriously wrong. I mean, this is a reality.
But then you have this dynamic set up of, I'm afraid of you, and I obey you because I'm afraid of you, not because I love you or I respect you or I want to obey you. I do those things out of compliance now. And some kids won't even do it out of compliance. They'll just get hit, and then they'll just look at you like, so? Now what are you going to do? Hit them harder?
Well, Jody, is it possible that you were overusing discipline? I mean, it seems like you were overusing discipline. That you were spending more time disciplining children than actually spending quality time with them and enriching their lives, right? It's if you're getting to the point where they're, you know what, you can't hit me any more times, like, I will ultimately fight back, right? That's when you realize that it's not working anymore. You've gone too far, and you yourself need to reflect on your own behavior. And why are you so angry all the time? Why are you so angry all the time at kids? What are you doing to enrich their lives?
Like pummel them.
Oh my God.
Now you've lost your intervention. And more kids are going towards that, where they just don't appear to be fake.
I have an update about Ruby, Franke, and I want to warn you, if you haven't heard this yet, which you may have, it's been out a couple days, but if you haven't heard this yet, it is extremely disturbing. It just keeps getting worse with what happened to these poor kids, and I knew that over time we were going to hear more and more disturbing things because what we originally heard was pretty vague about them being duct taped, and I knew that with that there had to be more disturbing details attached to what happened to them. I'm not going to lie to you, and I think we can all agree with this, that this news that broke about the details surrounding what happened to these poor children in Jodi Hildebrandt's house, this was absolutely shocking. My jaw hit the floor. My heart is so broken for these children. This news broke on People on September 21st with details around what happened to these children in Jodi Hildebrandt's house. Officers from the Santa Clara Ivins Police Department say that they found the 12-year-old with duct tape around his ankles and that he appeared emaciated and abnormally thin and weak. The victim informed officers and medical personnel that the wounds were from the rope that was used to tie the victim to the ground. The victim informed officers that Jodi put the ropes on their ankles and wrists, and that they, meaning her and Ruby, used cayenne pepper and honey to dress.
I'm glad that she clarified that, because the other video I covered kind of implied that they was like a pronoun choice for Jodi. And I just don't see that as being realistic, because she is very closeted, right? And I don't think she would have had that out there had anybody using special pronouns for her.
The wounds.
Does this finger look like that it got basically the whole end chopped off here recently? No, it really don't. But the truth is, yes, I did cut the entire end of my finger off. And let me tell you, the blood would not stop. I could not get the blood to stop. So what this video is about is how to stop blood in an emergency.
I'll try another home remedy called cayenne pepper in the wound. That don't sound good.
It doesn't hurt any more than it already was.
I've never heard of this in my life, but apparently cayenne pepper can be used to stop bleeding. So it's very clear that Jodi and Ruby were trying.
You know what? I would not do this if, seriously. I would definitely check with an actual doctor and not take medical advice from random people on YouTube.
To do first aid on these children for the wounds that they caused them. So they obviously didn't want to take them to a hospital. Tells me that the wounds on these children were so severe that they needed to be treated with something to stop bleeding. And they obviously...
They're reportedly bone deep, the wounds. And yeah, it's pretty clear that they did not want to take them to an actual hospital, to a medical facility, because those are going to be mandatory reporters. And if they saw the kind of wounds that were on these children, this would have been caught a lot sooner.
Didn't want to take them to a hospital because that would show that they were being abused. So instead, they chose to pour cayenne pepper and honey on it.
I love anger only when it's used in truth. Only in truth.
What does that mean?
And obviously you can have very clear, motivating anger inside truth. And unfortunately, most of us don't know how to do that. That when we feel anger, it predominantly goes into this place of distortion. And distorted anger is there to destroy, to attack, to defame, to exploit, to abuse. It has nothing but destruction attached to it. Whereas truthful anger is about creating and becoming closer to God, actually, and using it for protection and using it for clarity so you can see, and you can see with your heart.
Oh my God. Like, seriously, what are you doing? Why are you constantly banging the drum for let's be angry at our kids. When are you going to talk about reading them bedtime stories and singing to them? This woman is so horrible, you guys. They both are.
We're going to describe the juxtaposition between those two.
Officers seized a number of items from the home, including Scott's tape and saran wrap, as well as notes and journals, 2 bowls with a red liquid and a spoon, 2 absorbent dressings, 2 Kaban bandages, rope, 2 pairs of handcuffs, and 3 carabiners, according to the warrants. Authorities also located 2 used medical gauze dressings near the cayenne pepper and honey paste. Detectives from the department also seized 3 iPhones and 4 Apple MacBook laptops.
Everybody keeps glossing over that. The gauze that was found was used. Okay, let's slow that down a little bit so everybody in the audience hears it. The gauze that was found by the honey and cayenne pepper was used. Okay?
From the house, as officers sought anything that would have recorded communications between Franke and Hildebrandt, including cell phones, computers, tablets, surveillance footage, and other devices. The affidavit for the 3rd search warrant says that Hildebrandt asked for a lawyer and would not speak beyond disparaging Franke's children to the officers.
You are responsible to protect you, and now you're responsible to protect a baby. So I know that many of us, if not all of us, have been conditioned to believe that, if someone is being abusive, then you need to get away from that person who's being abusive. But it's okay to leave the kids in that environment. And I understand that many of the laws in the world support that. A man or a woman can be being abusive and they still will have their children given to them, which is horrible. And I understand why the law does that, because there's so much deception going on that the law, quote unquote, they don't know where the truth is. They don't know who's telling the truth. So this little boy that you have depends on you, Mom. And I'm hoping that you will be a lioness to protect him.
Now, they had rescheduled their last court hearing, and it says that it was rescheduled at the dated convenience of the court on a date after October 5th, 2023. So we don't have an exact date of the rescheduling. But I had posted in my community tab that they had rescheduled, and a lot of people were telling me that are a part of the legal system that this isn't uncommon because they wanted to be able to go through the evidence that they have collected. Now, reading this, that they've taken cell phones and computers and things like that from Jody's house, that is part of what they're currently searching through.
This is the house, okay? This is a $3 million home, 5,000 square foot, where a brave 12-year-old boy escaped. He had duct tape on his wrists and ankles and went to a neighbor's home. We don't know what neighbor because he was so malnourished and had deep lacerations from rope, by the way. He had duct tape on him, but it was rope. It was rope that caused the lacerations. They find in the house, the police go over, they find in the house a 10-year-old girl, Ruby Franke's 10-year-old daughter. Daughter will not talk to medical for 4 hours. 4 hours. That to me says there's brainwashing and fear going on.
With those details alone, there is no telling what they are going to find on these phones and on these computers. If the duct tape situation wasn't bad enough, when I heard that they had him restrained with ropes and then they dressed the wounds with cayenne pepper, y'all, this is just getting to a whole other level of sick and twisted. This is disgusting. This is such an unusual case and situation because we've heard disturbing things in the news before that children have experienced. Unfortunately, children are going through awful things like this all around the world every single day, as much as that breaks my heart. But this case is so unique and so different because these children's lives have been being filmed on YouTube for so long. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because I've seen so many videos from the 8 Passengers channel at this point of these children, that knowing that this is what they were going through makes me sick to my stomach. I mean, it disturbs me no matter what when I hear that kids are being abused, right? But the fact that we've seen their personalities, we've seen their smiles and their laughter, and unfortunately their tears, because their mom was a disturbed woman and filmed everything. But because we've seen so much with these kids, that it's almost like you feel a different type of connection because you've seen so much of their lives, right? And so hearing the details about what these children experienced and then being able to so clearly put their face to the details, it devastates me. It absolutely rips my heart into a million pieces that these children experienced this. And I feel like this is just scratching the surface. There's so much more surrounding this Jody Hildebrandt woman and the Frankies. And I've seen people say that Ruby Franke wasn't so bad until she got around
You know, maybe Sherry needs custody. She's 20, I think. So it would be a challenge for her. But she might be the best option, the oldest sister. And then make Kevin and Ruby pay her child support, right? So that she can afford to take care of them. I think that's probably what needs to happen here, because they do want, generally CPS wants reunification with the family, right? They want, or at least family adjacent, right? So, but Sherry also, I think, is going to Brigham Young right now. So it might be, her schedule might not be great to actually take care of these kids. And it sounds like they're going to need a lot of therapy appointments to get through what they've gone through. But the defaming comments that Ruby said about her son in the child custody case, if there's any truth to it, it's 100% her own fault. Because there is no way that you're a stay-at-home mom and you're this controlling and you don't know what he's up to.
Jody. I think Ruby Franke was bad before that. Okay? I think we found 2 peas in a pod. I think this is a situation where 2 like-minded people happen to meet. We know that before all of this came to the surface and before Russell had escaped and went to the neighbor's house asking for help, that his older sister, Sherry, at one point did call and have the authorities do a wellness check on her siblings, because a neighbor had contacted her and let her know that the kids were home by themselves without their mom there for several days. It says that during a September 2022 welfare check, multiple neighbors told police that Franke often left her young children home alone for several days at a time to go visit her friend and business partner Jody Hildebrandt in a town about 3 hours away, leaving the children with strict rules not to go anywhere or do anything. Ruby Franke's eldest daughter, Sherry Franke, asked police to visit her mother's home on September 18, 2022, saying neighbors had informed her that her younger siblings were home alone. Sherry Franke told police that her sisters and brother had been alone in the house for about 5 days while their mom was in St. George, Utah with a friend. Sherry Franke asked authorities to check on the kids and make sure that they had food and were safe. There was a camera on the property that could confirm that Ruby Franke's car had been gone for multiple days, and the police officers looked in the window and said that they could see the children in the house. But then they're like, we were unable to make contact because they wouldn't open the door. Authorities were back at the Franke home less than a month later when authorities received a Department of Child and Family Services report regarding possible child neglect. The DCFS report also alleged that Ruby Franke would leave her kids at home for multiple days with no means of transportation or contact contact while she visited Hildebrandt in St. George. A caseworker said that she had been to the Franke residence several times to try and make contact with the kids, but neither Ruby Franke nor the children would answer the door or pick up the phone. Then in a December update, police said that a warrant for the caseworker to speak with the children was not approved. Police were also called to Ruby Franke's neighborhood earlier that year when a DCFS worker reported 2 young kids running around in the road unsupervised in April 2022. I still can't get over the fact that there were so many calls made and nobody did anything about it. I'm so sad about that. Like, these kids did not have to go through this. And they're...
I had to make a call again last night for the family in my neighborhood because the little girl was yelling, "Daddy, you're hurting me." And I hit my head against the bottom of the pool. I was hearing that last night because he was throwing his little girl around again. And yet I can't get the Orange County Sheriff to respond. This has been going on for 3 years. It's been going on for 3 years. Dude has been coming over here, throwing little kids around in a 5-foot deep pool over and over again. So I know. I know what it is to have non-responsive emergency services.
needs to be more spotlight put on the fact that people tried to do something. Their sister tried to do something, but nothing was done about it. Like, how are the authorities going to sit there and say that they knew that there were kids inside of a home, but because they wouldn't answer the door, go get a search warrant for the house? Go get a warrant to enter the home then, because they're underage children and they're unsupervised. You have proof that the mom is not home. Things like this are happening all over the place, okay? This is something that happens all the time that we just don't hear about. Children just are not being protected. We're hearing about this one because they so happen to be a well-known family on YouTube where their lives were filmed and people have been calling out these abuse allegations for a long time. It's so sad to me that the reason why these kids were rescued and that justice is being served and Jody and Ruby are locked away is because the child that was being abused had to escape and probably risk his life to get out and to ask for help. But all of the adults that knew about this...
On top of it, he went out in socks. He didn't even have any shoes on. And right now, in all of the desert states, it is snake season. And they come out at night. So he is very fortunate that he was able to get to that house without encountering a rattlesnake.
Couldn't do anything. When Ruby Franke's sister's talking about how they tried everything, really? It took Russell escaping to get them help. That's messed up. And they were torturing those poor children in there. And then she wants to come out and say that it was being done because Russell was being people. I look at these videos of this little boy and I'm like, you mean to tell me that little boy was up to 20 people?
Yeah, I don't.
You mean to tell me that? Those women are next level sick. They are next level sick, and I hope they get the worst. I hope they get the worst done to them. I really do. There's no telling what else is going to unfold in this, but every time something does, I always feel like I couldn't get any more shocked or like I should expect anything from them because the things we've heard are...
Well, yeah, I mean, like, okay, Jody, with your anger, there's a truthful anger, right? Well, how much truthful anger is going to enter that jail yard and be aware of your case? You know? How much truthful anger is going to come in from the other inmates? Good luck.
Already so bad, but then I hear things like dressing his wounds in cayenne pepper. And my brain can't even come up with that before I hear it. It's so messed up. You guys are going to have to let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you guys would like me to continue covering this, definitely make sure that you let me know in the comments down below and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will be seeing you soon for another video.
Okay. Just another one. I really, there's tons of live streamers that are covering this topic at this point because it's probably one of the most disturbing child abuse cases that we've seen in a long time, right? And yeah, it looks like, I mean, based on the supplies that she had located in that, I guess it was in the panic room, near where the children were being bound. But I'm not sure. I don't know where they located, what they located. All I can say is that it looks like she was leading her way up to either sexual assault or murder. Like, one of the two, because these are the types of items that you would use if you're trying to kidnap somebody, if you're trying to sexually assault them, if you're trying to bind them so that you can stab them or something. This is like next level. And these women are incredibly dangerous and they need to be locked up.